Hey YouTube, JP Dillon. I picked these up over the weekend and the price was right and they were just kind of calling out to me. They were in a pile of stuff at an estate sale that was likely going to get tossed. They're just kind of entry level, late 80s, early 90s Radio Shack. These are the MC-800s, made in Korea. And they're kind of a worse for wear. They got some peeling veneer there, cabinet joint, which doesn't look all that great. The grills, although it's hard to see in the camera, are pretty badly stained. So these may just become shop speakers. This one, some kid got overzealous with pushing in the dust caps. Let's see if we can get those out. This one, this has the MacGyver fix here. Yes! Look at that glorious repair job. We'll have to carefully remove this. Probably what happened is either it started buzzing and rattling, or the glue here was becoming detached and they just taped it down rather than re-gluing it. And they poked this one in too. So, alright, so the first step here is to hook them up to an amp and see if they actually make noise if the drivers work. Okie dokie. I've got it hooked up to my amp here. Let's switch in the appropriate speakers.
What? You got the holiday off? You're lucky. Good for you.
Okay, so we got woofer and tweet. That's a good sign. I think now what I want to do, got that. Let me see if I can find a coupler. One of those RCA to RCA couplers. Let's sweep it and see if the cabinet resonates. And that should be good there. There's 700. Alright, so if you got headphones on, now would be the time to turn your volume down. That's 45. 120. Alright, and then we'll go to the upper registers. We'll just do that at a lower volume since I don't really need to. We've already proven that the tweeters work. Straight up through to 10, past 15. Alright, this one's okay. Let's get the other one up here in the condition it's in. Alright, so here's the uber sad looking one with its fabulous electrician's tape repair. Let's see what this one does. Coil misalignment. But if you pull on it, it stops, so that's why they did that. I'm not going to run that one long. I'll just kill the enamel on the voice coil winding. So this one over here works. This one needs help. So let's start by taking the silly electrician's tape off. And let's pull the woofer out and see what needs to be repaired on it. Alright, so here we are. Let's very carefully remove the tape here. This fabulous repair. And of course it's going to want to take up some of the cone. We're just going to be really fucking careful. Excuse the language. So given the amount of fade, that tape's been there a while. So this happened early on in its life. And somebody got frustrated with it and stuck the tape there. And I guess the tape worked for a little while. I mean, realistically, they probably could have just gone to Radio Shack, ordered the catalog number on the back of this woofer, and gotten a replacement. If they'd have done it 25 years ago. And if you're curious, the Radio Shack name is being absorbed by a company now, which is going to reopen it as, I think, Hobby Town, something like that. But guys might want to Google that. They got a pop-up shop here in Santee, California that I looked at, and it looked like it was mostly kids' electronic toys and stuff like that. So we'll see how successful that becomes. Alright, so this one's obviously got really bad woofer rub. Let's take it out of the cabinet and let's see why that is. That could be anything from a loose or misaligned spider to somebody that got a little bit overzealous with the power and hurt it. If we're lucky, we might just be able to realign the voice coil and go from there. But that's why I'm thinking these were in the get rid of pile. Somebody listened to them and they went, ugh. And we see that they do have insulation in the cabinet. This is the fantabulous woofer here. And let's get the cabinet out of the way here. Take a look down inside. So if I lift up on this, the spider is still, let's see, camera. The spider's still intact. It's not tearing loose from that. It's definitely got some alignment issues. However, if we get it in the sweet spot, it's quiet. So, really the way to fix this is to recenter it and reattach the surround. Now, I don't think that I'm going to be able to reuse this surround, simply because it's likely going to get torn up me taking this off. I'm going to try to remove the trim ring here without being injurious to it. That's not going to happen. Let's get our chisel underneath and see if I can carefully peel this up without hurting the existing surround. And the answer to that question is probably going to be no. I'm going to try. This one's delaminating pretty well. Alright, and let's see. Yeah, this surround has been taped in place for so long that it's kind of damaged. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll be reusing this or just replacing it. It might just be better to replace it. We'll see. I'm trying to think of a way that we can get this up and out of here without hurting it too much. Isn't this exciting? Not really. It's glued pretty well. The glue isn't old and coming apart yet. So I think I'm just going to total this one out, take the suspension off, and redo it, which is going to require that I go around the edge here and cut the old stuff away. I'm going to make a very light abrasion just below the lip of this surround, so that when I pull up on it, I'll very likely just take the tiny little thin layer of paper underneath it to make it easy to reapply a new surround. And this is a very narrow roll, so I don't know if I'm even going to have something to make this work, but we'll see. So now when I take this up, as you can see, it's coming up off the cone like I thought, with just that thin layer of paper. And now I can be a little more aggressive in removing it from the basket. This is really good glue. This is holding down. Normally cheap speakers come apart pretty easy, but this one's fighting me, so I guess that's a good thing. Try and scrape away the remainder. Kind of makes me wonder if it was just defective from the beginning and their electrician's tape repair job made it worse, or what. In any case, let's see if we can't fix this. Alright, so there's our happy little woofer. And I still got a sweet spot for the most part. Alright, so let's see if we can find a surround that fits this thing. Camera's being finicky. Alright, hold on. Let's just do this real time. No editing whatsoever. Alright, so the surround choices I have. One is kind of a super fat roll, and the other one's not a super fat roll. And the not super fat roll doesn't really cover the span of the basket that well, but it does cover the cone. Perhaps a little too well. And then I've also got this Boston acoustic style, which has a strange roll that almost comes to it. And then I've got a slightly smaller version of that, which comes even closer, but still not quite. Okay, and then I've got this, which is a super wide roll. But that does work. We might just do that and eliminate the need for the trim ring. This is just to make it work, really. Alright, so that's what we'll use. We'll use the super wide roll. And although in this application it typically wouldn't be needed, this is just kind of a fix it and get it done video rather than do it to perfection. So now what I'll do, putting this aside, is I'll take the new surround and we'll use our evil speaker glue. Make a thin bead of it around the edge here, filling in the gaps. And we'll get that seated as symmetrically as possible here. Just kind of lightly press that down. This stuff cures pretty fast on paper, so I don't think I'm going to worry about it getting too problematic. It's centering up pretty good, actually. I'm just pressing on it and it's not rubbing, so that's good. Maybe it was an error in assembly. Who knows? So now that that's more or less tacky, I'm just going to place a bead here around the edge. A little bit more sloppy than the last one. Then once we get the glue in, then we'll center it up as it dries. And then when it's all tacky, we can test it enough to know whether we've done our job or not. And I'm just kind of going by feel here when I bump into a stop point. Just tapping here, checking for noise and clearances. And yes, it's not perfectly centered because from whatever damages or problems this has, the sweet spot is no longer in the direct center, so you can see it's offset a little bit. But the thing of it is that this will allow it to play, and that's really what's important, is that it actually works again. Now later on I might go and do the other one too, just because it's a good idea to have them both matched. So that's more or less getting tacked down in there. It's almost dry. Alright, so when we tap here we get a little bit of noise, so we're going to have to move it this way slightly. There we go, no more noise. And we're going to cut away the holes that the screws pass through, because there's nothing like having that screw tear your surround when you tighten it down. It's always a good idea to do this. And then when we're done cutting the holes, we will sweep test it again. See if our scary resonance is gone. Should be. Coil's aligned, it's not rubbing anymore. And it's not rubbing going down, it's not rubbing coming up, so. Alright, so we got our holes cut out. You get a pair of alligator clips, and we'll just hook this directly up to the amplifier. This moment polarity really doesn't matter too much. We'll plug our signal generator back in, and we'll start at about 40 hertz. So nice and quiet. So we can do high excursion, and there's no rub there, which is really good. The little clicks and ticks are my signal generator that need the switches and controls cleaned. Alright, so that's that. Now we'll put it back in the cabinet, and we'll see how well it behaves inside of the cabinet. Alright. Looks like this is the way it's going to want to go with the least amount of resistance. One thing I notice, when I press on this, this little lip edge here pops up. So we're going to have to put a little dab of glue underneath that one. That one didn't seat right. So let's go ahead and slip a little bit of glue underneath here. Babysit that a little bit, press it down. Isn't this exciting? I really don't care to redo speakers. I like speakers, but this is one of those mundane tasks I'd rather be tackling, some sort of furious troubleshooting situation. But that's what that TV is for. That chroma color. I've got the capacitor on order for the high voltage supply, so we'll pop it in. That should take care of the blooming problem. We'll get to troubleshooting the color circuits. Eventually I will get back into that CalRad Japanese Seiko radio. This is almost tacked down enough where I can leave it alone. Cool. So now we'll hook it back up and we'll sweep test it again. Let's see. Oh yes, it's always helpful to actually hook the signal generator back up. Wonder why I'm not getting any signal. Make sure I got this hooked up right. It's very quiet. Bad coupler. Alright, let's try this. It's a little better. So at 50 hertz, we're doing okay there. What is that? How very interesting. What is that? It's almost like something smacking the back of the cone. We certainly didn't experience that with the with that hooked up by itself. Let's see what that's about. Let's hold it up and do it again. Nope, it's happy there. Is there like something rattling around inside? That's bizarre. That's truly bizarre. Let's try that again. Maybe the baffle's loose. That sounds like a loose baffle. Alright, so before we put this back in here, let's take it out and then let's take a look at the baffle, because that's pretty crazy. So I think we found our noise. Tweezer's too loose. Oh, somebody loosened it. God, I hope it's that simple. First I thought it was a seam joint, and then I started tapping on the cabinet and listening, and I heard the noise is concentrated around here. So I think very likely that's our problem. Let me just reattach these. And we'll put this back in the cabinet. Yeah, hold on a second. Okay, back in. Now let's listen to it. And we'll start down here at about 45 hertz again. Now we're good there. Alright, so that's good. Let's just run some music through it real quick. Both woofer and tweeter work. Alright, so that monstrosity is fixed. So now what we should focus on, we can read. I think I'll refoam the other one too later, but for now, this one works, so I'm happy about that. That turned out okay. As far as dust caps and overzealous kids that like to punch them in, duct tape. So I'm just going to cut off a little swatch here, and then we're going to try to pull this one up. Alright, so put L duct tape down, try to get as much of it into the cavity as you can, and then pull it up. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. This works better with paper and poly caps than it is this woven stuff. There we go. Leaves a couple of dimples there, but otherwise looks pretty good. So with something like this though, you got to be a little more careful. I'm going to take this dental pick and try to bring this up and out. Probably not going to work so well. I got one here stuck to the side of the voice coil former. Let's pull this one up and out. Yeah, this one ain't gonna look pretty. But then what I'll do is I'll apply the tiniest little bit of glue here. Or maybe not so tiny, maybe I'll just saturate it. And hopefully that will hold well enough that it won't be easily pushed in again. I'm just going to just distribute it into the crack here best possible. Don't want to apply too much pressure because then you'll just push it back in again. So although that doesn't look pretty, it's an improvement. Messy bench comments in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so I will redo this one. Since you already saw me do the first one, this one's just going to be an off-camera thing. I'll redo this one, and then we'll work on maybe getting these a little bit nicer looking, some Scott's Liquid Gold or something. Let's see if we can pop out the other dust cap here. I don't think this one's got a tear in it. So let's see if this sticky icky gets this out. Or it might just tear a giant hole in it too. Alright. So, since that ain't gonna work, what I'm gonna do is take another dental pick, and we're gonna poke a very small hole in the point of where it's the lowest. And I'm just going to pull up on that a little bit. I've got another end that's not got a curve on it, and we'll see if we can pull this out. Still a little bit of a dimple there, but not too bad looking. And then we'll put a little dab of glue on the hole that we were just working on. That just keeps the dust and stuff out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and refoam this guy here, and then maybe we'll clean these up. Don't know if I'm going to go as crazy as putting a grill grill on them, grill cloth, maybe, I don't know. Okay, more in a little bit. Alright, so here are the grills, and all I did was I sprayed the piss out of them with Windex, just soaked them, and then I took a toothbrush and I scrubbed all the staining and dirt and debris off of them, and then I patted them dry with some blue shop towels to make sure that they were completely dry, and as you can see, they turned out pretty good. And here are the cabinets all spiffed up. We got the surrounds on both woofers, we've got the dust caps kind of sort of repaired, that one's been pulled out. The last thing we really have to deal with is kind of how ugly these look. They do have some dings and nicks here and there. This one particularly up front has got a little bit of swelling. I injected some clear PVC type glue into here to make sure it wasn't going to split apart anymore. But really these need to be, maybe have some scratch remover or something put on them. A little flecks of paint. Yeah, I don't know if those will come off or not. They're pretty deep in there. Scraping them doesn't do much. So, because you could go crazy on these things, and I really don't want to, I just want them to work and look okay, I think we're going to hit them with some Scott's Liquid Gold. So this is the stuff I like to use. You get it online, you can get it at grocery stores in the cleaning aisle. Has a nice scent to it, it doesn't overly saturate things, and it usually brings out most worn wood if it's just got a faded finish or whatever. And I use it in conjunction with these shop towels, which I like. So I'm just going to fold this into a small square, shake this up, and spray onto it, onto the square there. And then we're just going to start rubbing it in. And I just go in a circular motion to get it into the grain and everything. This stuff's really soaking it up, so it must be super dry. And we'll go ahead and flip it on its side. It's helping. It doesn't look perfect, but it's definitely helping. And you never want to spray it directly onto the wood because it's pretty runny. I always just spray it directly onto the towel. I'm not going to bother to do the bottoms because, well, might be sitting on something that will leave a stain. I am going to flip them over though, do the other sides. And thankfully the dings are kind of in the back, so you're not going to notice them too much. I might fill them in anyway with some dark wood stain. Alright, so, and then after a minute or so, if there's still oily residue on top like this, I'll flip over to the dry side and I'll just wipe off the oily excess. So they look a little nicer. Let's grab the grills here. And let's go ahead and put the grills back on. Make sure they stay. So there you have it. Not too shabby looking. Come around to the side. They don't look bad. You got that little bit of peel up at the top, but not terrible. Alright, almost there. I think what I am going to do is put a little dab of wood stain in this spot here up at the top, and then maybe on this corner spot here, and then maybe on this one right here. So let's go grab that. Alright, so I'm just using some dark mahogany type style stain, and I got a Q-tip here. Let's get rid of the excess, and then let's just touch this up a little bit, kind of get it in there. Let's get the excess off. I dabbed on the side of the cabinet. If we want, we can try and shove it down in this crack too. Yeah, maybe not. That's not going to be very cooperative. And then we'll dip again, get off the excess, and then just come back here. And now when this dries, it will dry slightly lighter than when I applied it. I'm going to go down the seam here too, since there's some discoloring there. Alright. And we'll just wipe off the excess. And I think finally what we'll do, put the lid back on the stain and put the stain away. And then we'll rub down the rest with a paper towel or shop towel, and then we'll see how they turn out. Alright, well, this has had an opportunity to dry now, and you can see that it's looking pretty good. Still got a little bit of damage here, but better than it was. And then the back chip here from a distance kind of blends in, so it's not so much of an eyesore anymore. So I think these things they're done, or as done as I want them to be. I mean, I could go crazy on them, but I'm gonna pass on that. They both sound okay, they both look better, the grills are cleaned up. So there you go. That's a nice video of a quick repair / restoration of some Radio Shack speakers. Hope you guys enjoyed watching it. More stuff to come.